Good morning, everybody. Remember last winter when we'd have a cold snap for a couple of days or some snowfall, and mail call would just be filled with comments from these anonymous smartasses who would call in and say things like, "Hey, how about this global warming?" Like they were just so clever. Why don't we hear from those same people now when we're in the midst of this incredible heat wave? Because here in Washington County, Maryland, we've had triple-digit temperatures for the last week. We've had heat advisories, which is relatively unusual for this area. And I know that a hot day in summer does no more to substantiate global warming than a cold day in winter does anything to disprove it, but how can you believe one and not the other? Because it seems to me if a cold day in winter counts as a strike against the existence of global warming, then a hot day in summer should sure as hell count as evidence for global warming. I mean, it's one thing to be willfully ignorant of what is actually a quite well documented and broadly accepted phenomenon, but inconsistency, that I cannot abide. The following calls are taken from editions of Mail Call printed in the Herald-Mail from July 11th to July 22nd, 2011, which can be viewed online in their entirety at www.herald-mail.com. First up from Boonesboro, I just saw where the tax rate went up from 6 to 9% on beer. It's just like cigarettes. It could be $9 for a bottle of beer, but people will still keep drinking it. Same thing as cigarettes. $7 a pack and people are still buying cigarettes, so it won't affect anybody. Wow, you just made the case for taxing the ever-loving shit out of booze and smokes better than anyone I've ever heard. Well done. It's Friday afternoon, rush hour traffic. I just followed a moped from Sharpsburg Pike all the way out to alternate Route 40, right in the middle of the road. Traffic blocked up behind him, and that's why these things are such a nuisance. They need to be off the road or pay for tags and pay for insurance. Boonesboro. Would knowing the guy driving the slow-ass moped in front of you had to pay for tags and insurance really make you feel better when you're stuck poking along in traffic behind him? I am a homeowner in the city of Hagerstown and received my tax bills today. Due to the change in assessment, my city of Hagerstown taxes went down $7. The county and state went down $40, yet the city of Hagerstown has raised my utility bill $14 a year. I'm very upset with them. Hagerstown. Why? You're still $33 ahead. Some people just like to complain, I guess. This is in comment to the person from Hagerstown that says, "Christian America, it's time for us to rally." Okay, enough is enough. If all these illegal aliens can do what they do, I don't see why gay couples cannot get married. As long as they work, they pay taxes, they pay into Social Security, I don't care if they're gay or not. And as far as I'm a Christian, but you know what? That's between them and the Lord. And you can bet your bottom dollar that they're not going to have a bunch of illegitimate children that they don't want to pay for and be deadbeat parents like heterosexual couples, so I see nothing wrong with it. Washington County. Good for you, Washington County. I know it's sort of a backhanded endorsement of gay equality. At least they're not illegal aliens or unwed mothers. But see, these are the kind of people that we need to make real progress. I mean, sure, it would be nice if more straight people would stand up and boldly demand equal rights and fair treatment for their gay fellow Americans, but let's not let the grass grow under our feet waiting for that to happen. See, black civil rights reforms were enacted and sustained not because the American people as a whole finally rose up against bigotry and intolerance, but because a relatively small group of activists kept fighting for equal rights relentlessly for decades until finally enough white people threw up their hands and said, "Fine, no more segregation, no more poll taxes, whatever, great, go," and went back to reading the sports section. Here's an idea to stop the economic crisis. Have people stop hoarding those state quarters and put them back into circulation. Think of how much more money we would have. When was the last time you saw a Pennsylvania or Maryland quarter? Think about it. Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. You overestimate the numismatic fervor of your neighbors here in the Pennsylvania-Maryland region. The impact of the economic recession of the last 3 years has to be measured in the trillions of dollars. How many of those quarters do you think they minted? Wait, did they actually mint that many? Because if they did, maybe that's the problem. Come on, school teachers, give that money to the prison employees, somebody that deserves the money, somebody that works hard for their money. They're protecting us every day. Wouldn't be for them, we'd be in bad shape. Come on, teachers, turn your back when you get that paycheck. Sharpsburg. Yes, overworked, inexplicably despised public school teachers, take the money from your recent meager token pay raise that most of you won't even notice in your weekly checks, yet still had to fight for tooth and claw, and give it to a group of people in an entirely different line of work who openly flaunt their contempt for you and your profession. What's the deal, teachers? What do you have against prison guards? To the caller from Hagerstown who wants us to focus our energy on what pro athletes make and not what teachers make. Our tax dollars don't go toward pro athlete salaries. That's up to us whether to go to their games or to watch them on TV, but we have no choice when it comes to taxes. Teachers keep getting our money. Hagerstown. God, the nerve of these teachers! First they teach our children all this un-American atheistic garbage like evolution and the Big Bang and history and math and physics. Then they have the balls to ask for fair compensation. And then when they don't get it, they have the even bigger balls to keep asking? And then they form unions and they just, oh God! I just read the article in today's paper, and today is Friday, and I read the article, William Mikeal. God bless Mr. Mikeal. And I'm an old-timer, 80 years old, and my family is all military, retired. And I say if we don't soon start getting our morals back, as Mr. Mikeal said, Morgansville. You know, somehow I missed Mr. Mikeal's letter when it was printed, so let's take a look at it now, shall we? To the editor. As the flag was raised, the wind slowly turned the flag so that it was barely visible from where I sat listening to the Star-Spangled Banner. I grabbed pen and paper and wrote. As the flag was being raised and waved in the breeze, a strange feeling flowed over me and a question flooded my mind. How long will we be able to observe our flag and the freedoms it stands for? Slowly, the freedoms for which our forefathers fought are eroding away. The meaning of this flag seems so remote and distant to most of those around me, yet it means so much to those preceding us, many of whom gave their lives. How long will our freedoms last and our flag fly over us? God help us and restore us to the values we once owned. William Mikeal, Hagerstown. What values might those be, Mr. Mikeal? White supremacy, male supremacy, limiting the voting franchise to landowners? I'm not being a smartass here. I really want to know. People, especially many older people, seem to say this sort of thing all the time. We need to get back to our old values. We need to return America to what it used to stand for. But they never get specific. What specific freedoms have we lost that you would like us to reclaim, Mr. Mikeal? Maybe freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press? Because I would argue that those freedoms have actually been strengthened in the last 50 years, if anything. Or maybe you want to get a little more poetic about it. Maybe let's talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, it seems to me that thanks to the successes of the black civil rights movement in the 50s and 60s and the ongoing push for gay equality today, more people are free under the law to live how they choose, love who they want, and be who they are today in the United States than at any other time in our history. So I'm just curious, Mr. Mikeal, tell me, when is it you would like us to go back to, and why? I'm asking. When we were immigrants, we drove the American Indians off their lands. We brought over Africans and enslaved them. We stole most of the Southwest USA from Mexico. And now we want to go after the youth of illegal immigrants who probably have nothing to do with being illegal at all. It sounds like pure Caucasian racism to me. Hagerstown. Or, as it was known for most of our country's history, the American way. Thank you, Mr. Neil Parrott, for giving Marylanders a chance to vote against the in-state tuition to colleges for illegal immigrants. We are actually losing our heritage in this country simply by not enforcing our laws. Our forefathers would turn over in their graves if they could see this country today, how it is being literally given away. These illegals will hit in Maryland in droves, get their degrees, and head for the job market. Think about what it will be like in the future. Think of your children and their children, whose ancestors go back to the forefounders of this country, Sharpsburg. Yes, parents of Maryland, think of your children before you decide whether to support a law that may result in a more diverse, better educated population in our state. The illegals are going to get degrees and look for jobs. Ooh! Thank you, Herald-Mail, for the article Remembering the Bill of Rights, published July 4. I hope that when the holidays arrive, people will remember the First Amendment and the comments by the two religious leaders in Hagerstown and not complain so much about their rights as Christians being taken away from them because of the use of happy holidays, etc. It is important to remember that our country was founded not specifically for Christians' rights, but for the rights of those of any faith to be free to worship as they see fit. In case someone missed the article, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Williamsport. Mwah! Well said. And finally, from Hagerstown, this is on the last launch of the Atlantis space shuttle. About time for NASA to be cut off. All the billions of dollars they're sending up in space that don't do the American people any good. It doesn't do me any good to find a job. It doesn't do any good for me as far as paying my taxes. So all you do, government spends billions of dollars to put a spaceship up in the sky. We need rain, but to me, that's what's changing the atmosphere. It's not the gas. It's these darn spaceships and everything else that the government is trying to change. The bit at the end there about spaceships changing the atmosphere can speak for itself. We're obviously dealing with an expert on spaceflight here. Let's talk about what a waste of money NASA is. NASA's budget for this year was about $19 billion. But you know what? We all like nice round numbers, so let's go ahead and bump it up to a nice even $20 billion. We'll say that $20 billion is NASA's budget, all right? That also happens to be how much it costs to run the air conditioning for the troops at military bases in Iraq and Afghanistan. So let that sink in for a moment. The entire American space program is run for less than it costs to run the air conditioning to keep cool the troops serving in Iraq and Afghanistan fighting wars they don't even need to fight. But yes, by all means, it's time to cut NASA off. You ignorant fucking conspiracy theorist. You fucking embarrassment to an intelligent species. Do you reject evolution? It doesn't matter, because evolution has rejected you. You fucking... Thanks for watching. You fucking sack of shit in a skin bag, motherfucker.